The political arena is no stranger to fiery exchanges, but every now and then, a moment comes along that completely takes the internet by storm. This time, it was Senator John Neely Kennedy and Representative Jasmine Crockett who became the center of that storm. During a heated congressional hearing that was supposed to stay within the bounds of decorum, Kennedy launched what many described as a patronizing and calculated verbal jab at Crockett, expecting perhaps to rattle her or throw her off her game. Kennedy didn't seem prepared for what would happen next, because within seconds, Crockett responded with a combination of razor-sharp intellect, confidence, and commanding presence that absolutely obliterated the narrative Kennedy was trying to create. It began when the topic turned to judicial appointments and diversity, a conversation that was already charged with political tension. Kennedy, with his signature Southern drawl and deadpan delivery, leaned into a tone that some viewers immediately identified as condescending. He questioned Crockett's understanding of legal standards in a manner that clearly implied she was out of her depth. "I just wonder if the gentlelady from Texas has read the Constitution lately," he said with a smug smirk that was hard to miss. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the chamber as his words hung in the air. Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. With a calm but unmistakably firm voice, she leaned into her mic and delivered a response that would be replayed thousands of times across social media within hours. "Senator, not only have I read the Constitution, I've lived it, studied it, and defended it in courtrooms long before I ever walked into this chamber." Her eyes never wavered, her voice never trembled. She went on to cite specific legal precedents that directly undermined Kennedy's insinuation, leaving him visibly scrambling for a counterpoint. The silence that followed was more deafening than a dozen raised voices. What made the exchange particularly unforgettable was the precision with which Crockett dismantled Kennedy's argument. She wasn't just loud, she was logical, methodical, and sharp. She called out the double standards that often plague these kinds of hearings, pointing out how often women, particularly women of color, are underestimated and dismissed in political discourse. "You don't have to agree with me," she said pointedly, "but you will respect the intellect I bring to this table." Her words echoed through the chamber like a gavel hitting stone, and this time, no one dared interrupt. While Kennedy attempted to shift the discussion to judicial temperament, Crockett flipped the script entirely. Judicial temperament should include empathy, not just pedigree, she argued, pointing out that too often, marginalized communities are judged by individuals who have no frame of reference for their experiences. "If the bench is only filled with people who've never walked a day in my shoes, how can we expect justice to be blind?" she asked. The room, already stunned by her poise, now began nodding along. Even some of her political adversaries seemed momentarily taken aback by the clarity of her message. Social media was ablaze within minutes of the exchange. Clips of the moment where Kennedy mocked her, only to be immediately corrected and challenged with facts, quickly climbed trending charts across platforms. Hashtags like #CrockettClapback, #Don'tMessWithJasmine, and #Kennedy Silenced went viral. Supporters of Crockett hailed her as a rising star in Congress, someone unafraid to speak truth to power with elegance and fire. The contrast between Kennedy's smugness and Crockett's calm confidence only further highlighted the imbalance in the exchange. News outlets were quick to pick up the story. Some called it the takedown of the year, while others referred to it as a masterclass in reclaiming the floor. Political analysts praised Crockett for staying on message and not letting herself be baited into anger. "She didn't just defend herself," one commentator noted. "She turned the tables and reframed the conversation on her terms. That's the mark of a leader, not just a debater." The video was shared not just in political circles, but by celebrities, civil rights groups, and educators who saw it as a teachable moment in dignity and power. Back in the Capitol, the fallout continued. Kennedy, who was known for his quick wit and sardonic humor, found himself unusually quiet in the hours following the exchange. When asked by reporters whether he regretted his remark, he offered a short, clipped answer: "Everyone's entitled to their opinion." It was a far cry from the usual verbosity he brings to press scrums. Crockett, on the other hand, walked through the halls with her head held high, receiving congratulatory nods and messages from both sides of the aisle. The incident sparked a broader conversation about how women, especially black women, are treated in high-stakes political environments. Advocacy groups released statements of support, emphasizing how moments like these reflect deeper systemic issues. We saw, in real time, how a qualified, articulate lawmaker was subjected to dismissal and how she rose above it, said a spokesperson for the Women in Politics Foundation. Jasmine Crockett reminded us that brilliance cannot be silenced just because it makes others uncomfortable. Even late-night hosts couldn't resist weighing in. One segment featured a parody replay of the moment, with dramatic music underscoring Crockett's rebuttal and mock crickets chirping after Kennedy's failed comeback. It was played for laughs, but it also drove home just how one-sided the moment really was. Fans flooded comment sections with statements like she should be teaching law classes, and this is how you handle a bully out with facts and finesse. The moment became a cultural touchpoint almost overnight. But beyond the media storm, what truly stood out was Crockett's own reaction in the days that followed. In interviews, she remained humble but firm. "I didn't come to Congress to be disrespected, and I certainly didn't come to be quiet," she told one journalist. She emphasized that while moments like this make headlines, her focus remains on the legislation she was elected to fight for. Still, she acknowledged that if her standing up for herself helps others feel empowered to do the same, then the moment was worth it. Meanwhile, Kennedy's camp appeared to be doing damage control. Staffers were reportedly instructed to minimize further comments on the exchange, and internal memos emphasized recentering the messaging on legislative priorities. For someone who usually thrives in the spotlight, Kennedy's absence from media appearances in the following week was telling. It suggested that even he understood the magnitude of how badly the exchange had gone, and how thoroughly Crockett had turned the tables on him. Political strategists began including the incident in training materials for new candidates, labeling it a modern masterclass in political poise. Crockett's ability to stay composed while being targeted, to respond with precision rather than emotion, and to dominate the narrative without shouting, became a case study. "This is the new standard," one campaign coach noted. "It's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it, and who you say it to, without flinching." The moment also reignited discussions around modern congressional etiquette. Should members be allowed to belittle one another under the guise of debate? Should rules be updated to ensure a more respectful tone across the board? Crockett's supporters called for reforms, insisting that legislative chambers should not tolerate coded attacks or casual dismissals. As one tweet went viral, Jasmine Crockett didn't just respond as she exposed a culture of disrespect that's been normalized for too long. Back in her home state of Texas, Crockett's supporters organized rallies and town halls, celebrating her leadership. Local schools used clips of her exchange in civics classes, and young girls across the country posted videos saying, "I want to be like Jasmine when I grow up." It was more than a viral moment, it was a shift in representation. Seeing a black woman handle herself with such precision and control in one of the country's most watched political spaces gave many a new symbol to believe in. On the other hand, conservative pundits attempted to downplay the moment, accusing Crockett of playing the victim card or being overly sensitive. But those claims didn't gain much traction, especially when compared to the actual footage, which showed nothing but professionalism on Crockett's part and thinly veiled contempt from Kennedy. Attempts to rewrite the moment failed because the receipts were already public and far too powerful to ignore. In the end, Jasmine Crockett's clash with John Neely Kennedy wasn't just a viral clip-up, it was a symbol of a changing political era, one where confidence doesn't have to be loud, and respect is no longer optional. Crockett reminded the world that sharp minds can't be dulled by sharp tongues, and that no amount of mockery can overshadow preparation, purpose, and pride. In those few unforgettable seconds, she didn't just respond as she redefined the rules of engagement. And it's safe to say, everyone who watched will remember exactly how it went down.